download a copy of the policy so you fully understand what's going to be required of you as athletes and coaches. So not to take up any more time, I'd like to hand over to James Williams, please.
Thanks, Adrian, and thank you everybody for joining us this morning. The long list day is always a very special part of the 4-year cycle for Welsh athletics. It is effectively the start of the countdown to the Commonwealth Games and the countdown to Birmingham 2022. I think right from the start, it's important to stress that from a Welsh athletics perspective, the Commonwealth Games is always a central part of our key strategic objections from an organisation perspective. It's what we're all working towards. It's what all of our programmes are working towards. One of the big changes that we've tried to put in place over this last few years since the launch of our new strategy is to ensure that all of our programmes are aligned and all of our programmes across all aspects of the organisation ultimately lead towards the Commonwealth Games and the successful performance of our athletes and our team at the Commonwealth Games. So one of our key changes and key strategic objectives going forward is a move away from trying to just get athletes to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. I think for too long that has been one of the goals for our athletes and for our coaches and for the organisation as a whole. What we're now trying to move towards is a position where our athletes perform at the Commonwealth Games. And we want to get to a point where our athletes achieve season's best, personal best at the Games themselves. And that's a key challenge that our team have set off to achieve, and hopefully it's a key challenge that you as athletes and coaches and support staff are willing to accept. We want our athletes to, when they get to the Games themselves, be as best prepared as they possibly can and to perform at their absolute best at the Games themselves. So a lot has happened since the team returned from the Gold Coast a few years ago. We immediately undertook an independent review of not just the performance of our team, but also the general philosophy of the way the organisation approached the Commonwealth Games. And we've made a significant amount of change since that time. One of the major changes was around the governance of the organisation, and that started right at the top. We moved away from a representative board, which was elected by our member clubs, and moved towards a skills-based board, where we wanted to attract and appoint the best individuals to scrutinise and to challenge us as an organisation to ensure that we achieve what we set out to achieve. And as a result of that, the new chair of the organisation is Steve Perks. And for those of you who don't know, Steve is a hugely experienced coach at all levels, including right the way up to the performance section. He coached the team that won the gold medal at the Athens Olympics in the 4x1. He's duly supported by Adrian Thomas, who's the non-exec director with the portfolio for performance. And one of the other major changes that we put in place following the Gold Coast was the establishment of an independent subgroup of the board, which is focused around performance. There was an understanding that there maybe hadn't been a close enough link between what the objectives of the team at the Commonwealth Games were in relation to where the board were. So we've worked hard to address that, and that independent subgroup again has a nice mix of skills and experiences and is there to support the performance team, but also to challenge them around all of their decisions. And they've played a key role in challenging Chris, Adrian and the rest of the team around the policy and the standards in that policy. They in turn have brought that forward to the board, who in turn have then continued to scrutinise and to challenge the staff in order to get to a point where that policy and the philosophy that underpins that policy is as robust as it possibly can be. Beneath the independent subgroup of the board, each event group now has a strategy group. So the specifics within those event groups can be challenged, and the specifics within those event groups can be supported. And hopefully we can get to a place where everybody has an opportunity to feed into the way and the direction of the organisation. In relation to the policy, which was launched a few weeks ago, again, that went through significant challenges internally within the staff team, within the board, as I've just mentioned, but also from a legal perspective and also from an equality perspective to ensure that our policy doesn't discriminate to any individual who hopes to participate within the Games themselves. Now, it goes without saying, and for those of you who've hopefully seen the policy by now, that this is our toughest policy that we've ever put out there from a standards perspective. And again, there's a clear rationale behind each and every standard that's there. It's a consistent rationale, and the board and the subgroups have ensured that that has been in place. So what is our expectations as we roll into Birmingham in 2022? Well, as I've mentioned, it's not just about qualifying anymore, it's about performing at the Games. And as part of that, as an organisation, we are committed to supporting the athletes in any which way we can, not just to achieve that performance objectives, but also to raise your profile as we lead into the Games. And as much as we'll be working with Team Wales around the Queen Back Relay, we'll also be working across the organisation, driving engagement opportunities within clubs and the community to raise the profile of our athletes. So when you reach the Games themselves, you'll have the whole of the country behind you. And alongside that, supporting you as athletes and hopefully supporting the organisation with some additional commercial opportunities. Again, raising your profile, ensuring you are the best supported athletes that have ever competed at a Commonwealth Games. As part of our journey over this past few years, we've had extensive dialogue with UK Athletics and the home countries, along with direct engagement with the organisers of Birmingham 2022. You're all more than aware of the challenges that we've faced over this last period and the change in landscape, which has made doubly difficult with the move of the World Champs to 2022 and some of the logistical challenges that may pose. But with the strong level of engagement, with the strong dialogue with all of those parties, I feel that we are as best prepared as we can be. I mentioned the challenges we've all faced, and it has been an incredible year for all the wrong reasons. But at the same time, I think every single person within the sport has responded in exactly the way that we would have hoped. And I'm incredibly pleased to have seen the way our athletes and our coaches have adapted the way that they approach their training. As an organisation, we've worked really, really hard. Adam, Chris and Adrian worked incredibly hard to establish the Elite Training Hub based in Nyack. We were the very first sport to get our elite athletes back on track, and we've continued that process, working in conjunction with Team Wales, with Sport Wales, with Welsh Government and with Disability Sport Wales to ensure that all of our athletes have an opportunity to continue training regardless of the restrictions around us. Those opportunities are slowly expanding, and we've initiated additional opportunities in Aberdeen and now in Leckwith as well. And we've also booked specific training slots at some of those venues to enable athletes who are just beneath that elite level to have an opportunity to access training opportunities. As we move forward, we've obviously got a very tight qualification year, and I know the team are working hard to ensure that not only can we provide overseas training camps, but we can provide overseas training camps that are COVID secure, that are minimising the risk to you as athletes and to your support teams. And one of the key opportunities we have as an organisation, which is different from any of the other home countries, is all of the competitions that are delivered in Wales are delivered by Welsh Athletics. So we have an opportunity over this next 12-month period to respond to the requests and to the demands of our athletes by establishing specific competitions to support your ability to qualify at the Games. If the domestic calendar across the UK falls victim of ongoing restrictions, we can respond to that, and we in turn can put on competitions as and when required to help you achieve those objectives. Now, one of the key things that I personally wanted to put in place over this last period is an opportunity for everyone to engage directly with the organisation. Now, we've held a huge amount of engagement sessions over this last 9 months, over 120 webinars and over 20 Ask Us sessions where anybody's had an opportunity to feed into us. We're going to keep that going, and we're going to establish an athletes forum, which will enable us to come to that group of athletes to put forward our views and our plans for the future, and an opportunity for you to feed into some of the decision making. We want to get to the point that athlete-centered approach is we live by those themes, and there is a formal forum in place for the athletes to feed into all of our decisions going forward. So good luck. As I said, this is the start of the journey to Birmingham, officially the start of the journey to Birmingham. Now, all of the challenges we faced, we are committed to supporting you as athletes to achieving your objectives. And we are committed to doing all we can to support your preparation, and the team will talk through some of the things that we're going to put in place over this next few hours. We're going to do all we can to help you achieve those standards, both domestically and internationally where we can. We're going to do all we can to help you prepare for the Games themselves. We are committed to establishing the best possible environment for you to thrive, for you to perform. And as I said, we are there to put on competitions for you. We are there to support you to find competitions, and we are there to do all we can to help you perform at the games themselves, to ensure that Wales and you have the best possible experience and the best possible performance at the games. Good luck from me, and I look forward to seeing you all drive forward towards achieving those goals and hopefully supporting you in Birmingham in 2022.
Thank you for that, James. The passion, enthusiasm and professionalism of the board is really evident there. So I'm sure the athletes and coaches and maybe parents who watch this will have great belief in what we're trying to achieve. Before we move on, I'd just like to open this up. Has anybody got any questions out there? Just give it a couple of seconds. If anybody's got anything.
Stunned everyone into silence.
Okay, so I'd like to hand the session over to Chris Jones here. Chris is the team leader. Before we do, we've got hands up, I believe. So
John Bailey.
I think John Bailey might have a question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, John.
Yep. Hi guys. Really encouraging to hear this. Just in terms of that support, will that be extended to athletes that are almost based in England and potentially would like to train or find competitions in Wales?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned the strong links with the other home countries on various levels. We've been meeting on a weekly basis with UK athletics and the other home countries throughout the COVID period. We've been trying to respond to the challenges together, but obviously with each nation being in a slightly different place, that's become a challenge. But if there are situations where we can make representation on behalf of you to ensure you get access to facilities, we will certainly do that. I know, John, some of your challenges that you've had recently, we have been making representations. We'll continue to do that. What I will stress, and hopefully the team will stress this throughout this period and over this next period going forward, we don't know what we don't know. So you need to tell us where the challenges are, and that's how we can respond. I don't want to get to a point where anybody in our community, a coach, an athlete, an official, a volunteer, says, I wasn't aware of that. You need to engage with us, and we in turn then will engage with you and communicate as best we can. So it's a two-way process, and we need to ensure that there's open dialogue across the sport going forward.
Thank you, James. I'll just add to what James has said. Our event group leads are actually part of event group-based strategy groups across the home nations. So each of our event group leads do actually discuss and meet with the other event group leads across the UK. So again, if you can feed in that information, that could become positive information they can feed into those groups as well around competition and opportunities.
So we've had a question around the standards and why our standards are slightly different from some of the other home countries. We undertake a process. We track back over previous games, and the philosophy that Team Wales tries to put in place across the sport is top six. And given some of the challenges we have from a team size perspective now, and Team Wales are putting a limit on the total number of athletes across all the sports that will compete, we have to ensure that there is a consistent approach. It will be frustrating seeing slight differences across the home countries, but we have to be confident that we are reporting against the requirements of Team Wales, and the team have undertaken a huge amount of analysis of previous games, of Commonwealth rankings, of world rankings, of European rankings, to get to a point that any athlete that we nominate meets the objective set out by Team Wales. I don't know whether Chris, Adrian, you would add anything.
No, I think the laws have been normalised across the home countries. When you start looking at specific policies, Scotland has just actually announced their policy as well, and you can see a real alignment across certain event groups, and you can see a fractional sort of swing into different event groups, and that will be aligned to their tracking systems in Scotland and the population of athletes that they look to put on those teams as well. So that's out of our control. We can only really control what we work with, and we work with Sport Wales, we work with the tracking system. And just to move forward is that where we sit right now, we, as James highlighted, the board and the mechanism of the board, how it works right now, and then there's a subgroup, and I'd like to thank Adrian Thomas and all the members of the subgroup, because the level of scrutiny that we go through and we present now is incredibly open and transparent, and I don't think that process has ever been to the levels where it sits right now. And then alongside that, you'll hear us talk about strategy groups, and strategy groups then are aligned to event groups. So the event groups are also then being scrutinised by the community of coaches that are engaging with those strategy groups. So it's an incredible healthy process. And outside that, we have our own Commonwealth Games strategy group that are actually looking to build the logistical framework around the major games. So at each point of the process, there's an incredible check and challenge, and there's an incredible process that we are aligned to and sort of be accountable for. So that's basically what the process is to allow to the alignment of the standards. So nothing's going through just on the whim of an individual sort of view or an athlete. It's actually checked through a formal process. Moving forward, the policy and the philosophy of the policy, you know, it's about transparency. It's about an ethical, fair process for all athletes to be considered for nomination for the 2022 Commonwealth Games. It is to offer the right opportunity for athletes and coaches to be informed on. And I think what we're trying to do here, and I hope you recognise today, is that we're trying to improve our communication. We want to really pride ourselves on the communication and build up to this Games, and really take responsibility of actually informing athletes and coaches going forward about any changes, particularly in the climate that we're all working in at the moment. And then we want to be seen supporting the process of an appeal based on a legal requirement of the Commonwealth Games and nomination policy. We want to provide the right platform for athletes once nominated to prepare to be at the best ability to perform at major championships. We'll come onto that in a little bit more detail about the challenges that we're facing right now in that space. But again, what we're trying to do is actually, as we've said over a 4-year cycle, is to be supporting athletes across the programs. We've also been looking at athletes on long lists. We've also been looking at project athletes that we feel that could possibly give a performance into that space of the Commonwealth Games by Birmingham. So constantly tracking athletes across all of the event groups. And then what we're trying to do is narrow that down and have a very focused approach to what we're trying to do with the athletes moving into that last preparation phase. We also want to recognise and clearly recognise the personal coaches and the contribution that coaches have made across Wales. And the advantage of being a home Games is that we want to really support those coaches and try and get them into that environment as close as we can for as long as we can in the process and the build up to a Games, and obviously support personal coaches in that environment as well at the major championships. Over to Adrian, who will now just touch on some of the logistics and framework of actually this is how it's going to roll out.
Hi, so a bit of a busy slide there, but I'll talk you through it if I may. So the nomination policy was obviously being launched now, and on the left-hand side of that slide, you can see we're at the long list day. The nomination policy actually opens on 1st of January. We've opened this policy as early as we possibly can. Whilst the Games are in July next year, the team has to be selected in the early part of 2022. So we've worked backwards for that and tried to give you a bigger time frame as athletes to achieve those nomination standards. So as I say, the nomination policy opens on the 1st of January, and the nomination policy remains open until the 24th of April 2022. It's really important as athletes and coaches that you look at the nomination policy and you understand all the timelines that are associated regarding not only achieving the nomination standard, but things like the appeals processes, etc. As part of the open and transparent process as well, rather than just go through a 12-month cycle, what we're now going to work in much smaller chunks. So we're going to work in 3, 6, 9-month chunks. So you can see on this diagram, we're going to put in place a review system. So for program athletes, we're going to review the athletes in April, July, and September, just to ensure that they are on course and on track to achieve the anticipated nomination standards. But at the same time, we're going to do event group reviews at that point. And the purpose of those review groups is to look at athletes who are actually on the pathway and looking that they may actually get towards that nomination policy. And it's an opportunity for us to look at how we support those athletes on their journey as well. So on top of this, it's really important that we give you as much information as early as possible. So we are planned in there some Ask Us sessions on January and March. So as soon as they become available, we will put them online and we will advertise them, and I'd encourage everybody to join those sessions And really before that session as well, if you've got any questions, feed them in, because we can make that part of the Ask Us session. So I'd like to just hand over to Chris. I know Chris wants to talk around really the latter part of next year.
Just a few things to touch on there. On the Ask Us sessions, that will be as a collective as we sit right now across everybody in the event groups and probably a forum at senior management. Also, there'll be individual event-specific Ask Us contact points, and we'll be putting out a communication strategy for event group strategy of communication, just so that everybody's informed of actually how we start to move things forward. And I think the review process with the performance athletes and the review process across the programs, it's not just to initiate a review of how individual athletes are doing. It's also to be in touch with the challenges that we're going to face over the next 6 to 8 months of the competition window. Some event groups clearly will have more opportunities than others in the early part of the, should we say, unlocking of the COVID situation. So we want to be mindful of that. And we also, just like James says, we want to be coming up with solutions in the domestic calendar where we can support athletes through that process as well. When we then, what we always envisaged was we'd expect around 90% of athletes over the next 12 months to satisfy that qualification standard that then obviously puts you in that nomination framework. So that's the goal that we've sort of set ourselves. We'd expect to see that coming forward. When we come into the October period of next year, we'll be then looking to review our position of athletes who have attained the standard. And then in the final preparation phase, from October going through to March, we'll be then sitting with the event group leads and looking at specific athlete plans of how we can actually support athletes in that final preparation phase. And the reason why I'm saying that is if the policy closes on 24th of April, I think everybody here would agree that there's very limited opportunity within the domestic calendar in UK at that point of the year. So we've got an investment, we've got a budget aligned to that investment that actually allows us to actually look at the individual preparation of athlete plans going forward from October to April. So when we start looking at that, that's a significant investment for individual athletes who are still looking to get the standard, and that's probably going to be in somewhere like South Africa, Australia, or the States. If one, the athlete is a priority, and he's seen to demonstrate that investment is aligned to reaching the standard going forward, and though that will be worked with each event lead, each specific event group, of actually looking at where are the opportunities at that period from October onwards to actually support athletes to attain the standard going forward through that period. So that's just keeping in mind that there has been a lot of thought and investment put on one side at that final window to try and support athletes, as well as preparation over that final winter moving into obviously the nomination period.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So just as a reminder there, the key dates in the first part of this process: the nomination window opening on the 1st of January. The window runs through until the 24th of April 2022. And then the next stage of that is the Welsh Athletics nomination panel will meet on the 25th of April 2022. The one thing I'd ask that you all bear in mind and you all adhere to is communication. Is really the more you communicate with us and the point of contacts along that journey, the more informed we are as to regards to information regarding your situation and performances. So please keep communicating with us over the next 18 months, 2 years. So again, a very, very busy slide there. I can only apologise for how busy it is, but 2022 is going to be a busy year. The nomination window there closes on the 24th of April. And you can see there's a series of green flags on the left-hand side there. So what that is saying is we've got a very short window where we've got the opportunity to obviously just make the nomination selections, go through an appeals process, which will be a fast appeals process in line with other UK selection policies. So there'll be a 24-hour turnaround. So again, I'd ask that everybody be aware of that, read the policy and understand what you might need to do if you want to raise an appeal. So the nomination meeting will be on the 25th of April. The opportunity to submit an appeal will open on the 26th of April, but it will close then on the 27th of April. Those appeals will be put together. They will be then presented to the Welsh Athletics Appeals Panel, who are a separate body to the nomination panel, and they will look at those appeals on the 29th of April and make an appropriate decision. At the end of that meeting, then the team will then the nominations for the team will then be passed straight away across to Team Wales, who will then go into the actual selection process. So at the moment, all we can do is, until the 29th of April, is we can actually nominate athletes. The actual final selection onto the team rests with Team Wales. The dates we've got, these are just provisional dates at the moment. I know Chris is confirming them off, Chris Jenkins from Team Wales. But Team Wales, the initial selection meeting will be there on May the 4th. And they're looking then later in May, sort of mid-May, to announce the team. I'd like to hand over to Chris if I might, because the first part of the year is very busy in regards to what you're going to need to do to become nominated and then obviously hopefully selected. But the back end of the year as we lead into the championships is also very busy, and Chris would like to say a few words to that point.
Yeah, I think first of all, when you look at the dates of where we've worked to pushing those dates as close to that nomination process as possible, we're trying to maximise every spare weekend we can in 2022 to allow athletes the maximum opportunity to perform. So that's why we've pushed it as close as we can to those dates. And then as we move forward, obviously we'll be looking at preparation camps with athletes that have got standards, and we'll be looking to roll out preparation camps across all event groups and running that up into that championship window. And then if you look at the championship window, we can obviously see a World Championships in Oregon prior to that and a European Championships after the Commonwealth Games. What I want to be absolutely clear on from the position of Welsh athletics is the #1 priority for our investment is the Commonwealth Games. That is our #1 priority, to invest athletes to perform at the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. Athletes who attain the standard for the World Championship, well, obviously we've been in discussion with myself, their performance, and if it is seen that the competition program enhances and leads to support the performance of the Commonwealth Games, consideration will be made around individual athlete programs to allow them to compete at the World Championships and also then enhance that performance going to a Commonwealth Games. If I give an example, which is probably an extreme example, for an example of someone qualifies for the World Championship at the marathon, it's probably highly unlikely that we'd select or be nominated for a Commonwealth Games marathon 10 days later. So it's just putting it in perspective of where the priority is and actually what we're looking for. So there'll be a lot of discussion around once athletes have got the nomination standard, what are the priorities, what is the program plan, and what enhances performance going into that Commonwealth Games championship. Moving after that, the European athletics, obviously there are opportunities then that again, the Commonwealth Games performance then can actually lead into European Championships, and we would like to see the largest cohort of Welsh athletes representing Wales at a European Championship as well. And we don't see that as conflicting, we just see that as a huge opportunity moving forward for all event groups in Wales. So we're really looking to see say a really strong performance from everybody at the Commonwealth Games, and the opportunity to hold that level of performance and obviously see as many athletes gain that European athletics window to make that team.
Thank you, Chris. And again, just to highlight the key dates there for everybody to be aware of. The appeals process opens on the 26th of April. The appeals process closes 24 hours later on the 27th of April. The process of how you actually raise an appeal is in the nomination policy, so I'd encourage you to read it. Welsh Athletics will sit on the 29th of April, and we will submit then our nominations for consideration for selection to Team Wales on the 29th of April. So again, a very short window there. Please, do read that nomination policy, and I'd encourage you all again, communicate with us frequently throughout this next coming period.
Adrian, can I just finish up? These dates here in front of us on the timeline, these are the critical deadlines, and all I can emphasise to everybody on this call, and everybody, coach, athletes, parents, everybody engaged with the process going forward, is that to understand the responsibility you have of actually understanding the policy and understanding the process of nominations and appeal. Please take your time to read the policy. If there are any concerns over the policy itself or you're not quite clear, please pick up the phone or contact myself or Adrian and talk to your event groups, because it's your responsibility to take ownership of understanding the policy. Just want to be very clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, so there's an opportunity for some more questions, and there has been a question raised by one or two people actually around the process for the nomination standard, the levels of nomination policy. What I would say is it was a comprehensive process. We looked at all the games going back to Manchester. So we've gone through a series of games. We've taken any anomalies out as best we can throughout those games, because there are always anomalies in certain events as you go through that period. But we've tried to get a consistent philosophy across all the games since Manchester, looking at what it would take to finish sixth actually at the games, which is in line with the Team Wales selection philosophy. So that data was pulled together. We've looked at what the average of performances and the average of performance required would be. That data was presented to each of the event group leads within Welsh Athletics with responsibility for those event group areas. There was an opportunity for any discussion around nomination performance levels as a team. We then presented our best scenarios forward to the performance subgroup in the first instance. And what I would, I want to reiterate that the performance subgroup has a level of understanding across each of the event groups. So it wasn't a body of people that maybe didn't understand each event. Within the performance subgroup, there was a good understanding across all event groups, plus an independent body of people to look at it, scrutinize it, and verify it. From there, once the performance subgroup had raised it, it was then passed to the board of Welsh Athletics, who again, with a broad skill set, they reviewed it, and we were questioned heavily on the nomination performance levels. And at that point, once the board had actually reviewed it and had been through a comprehensive programme, that's where we then sent it forward to Team Wales, who then scrutinised it against the Sport Wales tracker. So Sport Wales, since the last games, have been developing a comprehensive tracking system for all sports. And again, they use it as part of their preparation. And what I would say on this call is that the nomination standards we got to on our sort of manual exercise tied in with the independent data from Sport Wales. So I can assure anybody on this call that there was a high level of scrutiny and a considerable amount of work went into the nomination performance levels. So.
Adrian, just in support of that, also, I think everybody be aware that there's only one standard this year. There is an A standard, there is a B standard, obviously, on the Gold Coast. And that was actually part of the review process, and also from the Commonwealth Games Association. Actually, the fact is they wanted one A standard, and that's where the alignment of standards is also coming with the tracker as well.
We've got a date. We've got a question about the why is the date of the what is the date for window close so far for some of the other home countries. I think, as Adrian pointed out in his presentation, it's largely dictated by the Team Wales date. We'd obviously like to take it as far along the summer as possible to give as many opportunities as possible. But as Adrian quite rightly points out, all we do is nominate athletes for consideration for selection. It's Team Wales who select, and it's Team Wales who set that date. And we have tried to get the window to be as close to that date as physically possible, with, of course, the ability to factor in a period for appeals.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to ask Adam Rattenbury now to update you all on the Commonwealth Games preparation camp that we've been looking at over the last couple of months. A lot of work was done in looking at various options across Europe and the UK. And having been to this Expionics Centre in Slovakia, at the moment, this is our preferred option. So I'd like to hand over to Adam and to talk around the rationale and to give you a bit of a flavour for what this centre can offer us as a team.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So I guess from the outset, we have challenged ourselves as a team to be the best prepared Welsh Commonwealth Games team. And after an extensive recce process, we feel that the Expionics Sphere based in Samarin in Slovakia offers us the best opportunity to prepare as a team leading into the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. So we'll talk about the facilities a little bit in a second, but our expectation for those athletes that are nominated and then successfully selected, the expectation is that athletes will attend the final preparation camp. Because we feel it is the best way that we can promote an environment for final preparation before dropping into Birmingham. And our rationale for this is that Slovakia offers a potential for some stable conditions, so some warm weather opportunities for final preparations. The facilities are excellent, and we'll take you through those as we go through the slides. It offers us the opportunity to control the controllables, and I think if we've learned anything through the last 6 to 8 months within the COVID situation, the more that we can keep in our control, the more we have control over things, and we can keep things as stable as possible. It obviously offers us the ability to come together as a team before going into the Birmingham games. So we want to try and promote and build the team spirit and team ethos as much as possible. And it's where our support services will be, again, linking back to final preparations and being the best prepared Commonwealth Games team that we can be. So obviously, it's probably worth mentioning here that we are also working on some contingency plans as well, if COVID is still part of our lives in the build up to the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. So this is our preferred option, but we are working hard in the background to look at other opportunities and potentially some domestic opportunities as well, depending on what restrictions look like in that final preparation window leading into Birmingham. So a little bit about the facilities itself. As I said, it's based in Slovakia. Flight time to Slovakia is around about 2.5 hours. We flew into Vienna, and then the transfer time on the ground was around about an hour. Our final preparation camp, we're looking at entering the camp around about the 14th of July 2022, and we're looking at a 10-day preparation camp. So looking at this aerial shot of the facilities, you can see here that X-Bionics itself is based next to the River Danube, so it's a nice area. It's where the 2017 Euro Cross Country was held. It's a self-contained unit. As you can see, that's an equestrian loop that you can see there highlighted in the picture next to the River Danube. It's a self-contained unit next to the small town of Samarin. So the weather conditions in July on average in Samarin, it's nice stable conditions. It's not too hot, and we think it offers an ideal opportunity for some warm weather preparation leading into Birmingham. And then this is the unit itself. So there's a lot of facilities on site here, and they're actually set up, and they're very well versed in supporting elite and high-level sports teams across multiple different sports. So if we have a look at the facilities themselves, you can see that we've got the track up in the kind of top right-hand corner. We'll go through these in a little bit more detail, but this just shows you where everything is and how close it is, proximity to each other. So you've got the track, then the central part there is the dining facilities, the gym facilities, some of the rest and recuperation areas. And then you've got the accommodation blocks over on the far right-hand side there. And then the area in the middle is around kind of recovery. You've got large grassy areas, you've got outdoor seating, you've got an indoor and an outdoor pool, and you've got some outdoor plunge pools as well for rest and recovery. And then off-track facilities, like I said, that's not the River Danube there. The River Danube is slightly bigger, and it's down the bottom of the picture, but there's bridges intermittently over that water, and you have miles and miles and miles up and down the Danube of flat bike paths ideal for walking or off-track running, and you've also got miles and miles of trails as well. So the track itself, it's IAAF accredited. It hosts European level competitions every year. It's a lovely facility. There's a stand facility there, which is where we'll be looking to provide some of our support services. And then it has a separate self-contained outside throws area as well for all throws. And then this is some of the opportunities for off-track. So on the far right-hand side there, you've got the trails, which go up and down the River Danube, and on the left-hand side, you've got the flat bike path, which again is available for off-track running and obviously walking. The accommodation itself is through shared rooms, shared accommodation. It's fully accessible on all floors. There are lifts to all floors. Each floor has a washing machine and tumble dryer, so we aren't prepared to do your washing for you, but there is access to do that yourselves. But it's great facilities. Having looked around, we've been over as a team and looked at multiple different facilities. The accommodation itself is excellent. It's got everything we need. The dining facilities, there's a couple of different dining options within the facility. This is their Olympic dining room. So we are going to have our own separate and segregated dining area within the dining hall. And the dining hall itself caters for 3 meals per day, and it caters for all diets and all dietary requirements. And it changes, it's varied on a day-to-day basis. So there isn't any repetition of food on a daily basis. Conditioning facilities, so gym facilities, again, they're excellent. There's a full cardio suite, there's full lifting and S&C capability with lifting platforms, machine weights, there's a full gymnastics facility as well. So when we looked around, we wouldn't be wanting for anything. It provides everything we need for the final preparation phase. And from a recovery point of view, so this is a picture of the indoor pool. There's also an outdoor 50-metre pool. And on the left-hand side there, you can see the outdoor warm plunge pools for recovery. And then to help manage downtime, we're acutely aware that you get a lot of downtime in this final preparation phase. So we wanted to try and provide as much opportunity to rest and relax as possible. So the facilities, it's got its own indoor bowling alley. It's obviously got the pool tables there. There's a couple of different coffee shops which are open through the day, seating areas in the accommodation and around the facilities, both indoors and outdoors. And it has its own cinema on site as well. And this is probably not much interest to athletes, but for us as a preparation team, we have the availability of different size meeting rooms. We can come together as teams, and this is obviously where we'll be hoping to provide team opportunities and come together as a team to give out information.
Thank you, Adam. What I would just reiterate is the first part that Adam mentioned is this centre is used to gearing up for high performance sports, so it's great to be working with them at this point. Have we got any questions at the moment? Okay, before we break as well, at the facility, there are some other home nations looking at this facility. Northern Ireland have actually booked to go out there at roughly the same point. I know some of the teams from the Asian continents are also looking at this as a facility going into Birmingham, so it's proven to be a very popular venue as a preparation camp. I'd like to suggest maybe just a 5-minute break to allow you all just to grab a cup of tea or whatever, and after that I would like to invite Chris Jenkins onto the call to really just to give you an update on the Team Welsh philosophy and any updates that are pertinent now around Birmingham. So if you could all just enjoy your break, and we'll see you in 5 minutes or so. But thank you very much so far for everything. Thank you.
Here we go. So as long as you can see this, that's okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks very much for having us on. It's real pleasure. And what we're going to do really here, as Adrian just said, we'll touch on the village, we'll touch on the stadium a bit, which actually you know more about the stadium than we do, because obviously it's something you use frequently. But we'll touch on the, if you like, the refurbishment of that, spend a fair bit of time on the village, and then also obviously go on to the selection process from Commonwealth Games side, and you will have dealt from, if you like, from Welsh Athletics side earlier. So those are some really awful pictures of us. That's fine. We'll move very swiftly on from that. So within the team at the moment, obviously there's myself, there's Kathy, and we use Kath Shearer joined to look at the whole performance side as well. So we just got the basic dates here for you, which has been changed by 1 day, and primarily actually for 2 reasons. One was the World Athletics Championships, which have been moved obviously from what is now an Olympic year into 22, and the UEFA Women's Football is taking place in England during the same summer. So in the end, the Commonwealth Games ended up moving by 1 day. So there's nothing meaningful. Probably the main sort of changes is age. So we've got here the competition schedule. So the main changes that have happened really for athletics is the program's over 1 day less to allow, and also to allow maximum amount of time for recovery from the World Championships into the Birmingham Games, and then there's a European Championships a little later in the summer as well. So there's been a lot of moving parts, and also quite a few sports have sort of switched around a little bit. But primarily for you guys, the marathon is now first on the Saturday, the 30th of July. Then there's a little break before we start the integrated inclusive athletics program. So that's able-bodied and the para-athletics, which run from the 2nd of August through till just before the closing ceremony on the 7th. So I think it's 1 day shorter than normal, but nothing too dramatic. So those your key dates. Let's try and move on. So let's go on to the stadium. So we've got the dates there. 59 medal events you'll have. So here is Alexander Stadium after it's been rebuilt. So you'll all know it very well. So one of the stands that you will know hasn't been touched, which was the one that was built just a few years ago. The old area was clearly demolished, and then there's the banking that goes all the way around the side, and there'll be some temporary stands there as well. Looks quite smart, doesn't it? And this is what it looks like from the northeast corner, looking across to the new stand. So the kind of the current new is on the left hand side. So that's what it will look like. And then this is the view back from the warm-up track, which again you would know is right next door to the stadium itself. Okay, and now I'm going to show you lots of pictures of earth and concrete, and this is what it looks like about a week ago. So you've got the warm-up area to one side, down in the bottom corner, which is progressing, and then the new stand, the frame, and then you can also see there some of the concrete for the terraces that run all the way around both the north and the south corners. So it's going well. It's on time. Because of the size of the site, they only lost like 1 or 2 days with COVID. They actually only had to stop marginally during the original lockdown in England. So the size of the site really helps for this build. So we are confident that this will be on time. And then the village, which is not going to be on time. This really did get hit by COVID because obviously a very tight site, and you've got people working on high-rise flats, but effectively too tight a site, and a lot of time was lost with COVID. It took them several months before they could go back in safely. So the decision was made not to take any more risks. And although Perry Bar, the original village, will be built, and it might even be, up in time for the games, it's too high a risk. So the decision was made to move the athletes' village to 3 sites of existing accommodation, so there's no issues. University of Birmingham, where I hope you'll be based, Warwick, and NEC hotels. So they're basically 3 campuses. So here's a quick map. Now, if you kind of look at it, you can see the Alexander Stadium Athletics, and it was very close to the old village, so bad luck. You've got a slightly longer journey now, and you'll probably be in the University of Birmingham. University of Birmingham's complex, which will actually probably be the main village. It's where probably the international zone welcome ceremony will take place. But we don't have very much information yet because they've only just finished, the OC have only just finished signing all the contracts, because clearly they had a lot of work to do in a very quick time. For those of you who know University of Wolverhampton, there's a Walsall campus near the Alexander Stadium where we've got about either 48 or 50 rooms, depending on which block we take. And that will still be the site for the extra officials. So we can keep that as well. So again, that's very close to where your events will take place. So moving on. So the University of Birmingham itself, let's focus on that. Let's make the assumption you'll be going there. So it's a competition venue already for hockey and squash. And it's probably, as I say, it's going to be probably be the main campus village site because it's got a lot of space, about 2,800 beds there. It'll also be the site for quite a few of the smaller countries who will not be split between the 3 campuses. Most rooms are single ensuite, so an upgrade in accommodation in a sense, and also it's COVID secure. So again, there's no risks here. And there will be, they've already got, obviously it's a university, so it's obviously got things like the food hall, etc. We're not sure where the transport mall will be because it can't be on site, but it'll be relatively close by, and there might be a shuttle. Few pictures of students having a good time, but it gives you an idea of the campus size. I've got an aerial photo in a minute as well. So they will be able to do an awful lot with the site. So I think for those in the University of Birmingham, you will have a very good games experience. I think everyone will, to be honest, but I think this will probably be the main focus. Bedrooms, you know, they're good standard. It's, you know, when I was a student, university accommodation was not great. That's no longer the case because obviously they deal with a lot of conference facilities. So some of you may even have stayed there. It's a really good set of rooms. So here's the aerial photo I was talking about. So if you look towards the top, there's a little red line. Now this is an approximation. So this is what I think the site will look like. But the Mason Halls is part of the complex. But as you can see, there's a lake and there's a bit of greenery around. So that's why I was saying it's probably going to be one of the main areas for bringing in athletes and staff from other villages to sort of make this the main hub. Then as we go down, you can see there's a training track. You can see in the area there's an athletics track there, which is good to see. So I'd imagine that'll be training, if not out at the main site. And then where I've got the hashed area, I'll come on to that in a minute. That's where Edgbaston Park Hotel is. And at the very bottom, you can see there the hockey courts. So down there is actually if you like, a sports venue, and the cricket's nearby. So it should be good. And Edgbaston's a beautiful area of Birmingham, so it's in a really good space. So I'll move on. So I mentioned Edgbaston Park Hotel. So this is where we're going to have Team Wales House, and it will also be the media hub. So this is, for those of you who went to Gold Coast, we had the surf club. So we couldn't find the beach, all rolling breakers, but we did find a very, very good hotel that is really close to the village as it's turned out. So VIPs will stay there, but also we'll use it for the media as well, and friends and family. And it's a nice place to go and relax. It's got a good bar, it's got a very good restaurant, sort of cafe type. So I think you'll find that very useful. We've got designated space that includes the terrace out the back. So that's worked out really well for us. We booked this about a year ago, to be honest, when we booked the Walsall accommodation. As it turns out, this is slightly more central to plans now than we originally thought. So we'll do a lot of our media there. We've already spoken, Kathy's already spoken to the BBC about it, and they want to be based there for us as well. So it's going to be busy. So it's going to be very similar, effectively, to what we provided down in Gold Coast, where you have Team Wales House and the media hub at the same place, and it's makes it very, very informal. So there's a lot of media expectations. As those who did Glasgow or know about Glasgow, the home games does raise the expectation on media. It does put pressure on you, puts pressure on all of us. So we'll do as much as we can to mitigate that pressure. So we'll increase the size of our media support team. So running all the way up to the games, we've been working closely with your media people, and we'll carry on doing that, and we'll bring more and more sports involved as well. Talking to the BBC already with detailed planning. So we're going to make sure we take as much of the pressure off you as we possibly can going in, so that it's a really good experience for you. The media team will be managed by Kathy, and we've got some really good support with already in place as well. So detailed planning, because we know this will be a real area of work for us going into a games, and we want to keep as much pressure away from you as absolutely possible. So talking about pressure, let's go on to selection. So just a couple of slides from me really to finish up, and then we're happy to answer questions. So the selection process itself is very similar to the one we followed in Gold Coast. It's all but identical. There's a few minor differences to improve it. There are some key stages, obviously, which you guys will touch on around the nomination process and the competitions that you will enter to get the evidence to prove you're in the top 6 standard. And then nominations then go to Commonwealth Games World Selection Panel, which has already been picked, whose job it is to cross compare with all the other sports. So a tiny bit more detail. So I hope I don't confuse you here, because it is complex, unfortunately, but we'll just focus on the bits that really are important to you. So all the sports are divided effectively into 2 pots. The first one, invitations by qualification. So that includes all para sports, so obviously relevant to you. And then 11 sports, which includes athletics, so again, relevant to you, where Wales is allocated a number of places, and then we select the team across those 11 sports. So nominations are submitted to the panel from all sports. I have the enviable task of putting all those together and then putting them into a cross comparison spreadsheet and process, which we used last time. The cap for these sports is down from Gold Coast. It's 89. So it means the places in Team Wales are more valuable, but also harder to get. And we're looking to take, and will take, the best 89 athletes from Wales in those 11 sports, regardless of what sport it is. All nominations have to come in by the 27th of April, but that's our date. So you follow your nomination policy. We set a window outside, and I cross compare, and I'll be working with sports throughout the whole of 21 into 22, because I don't sit on the panel, to make sure your case is put forward in the best possible way and that the cross comparison is fair as possible. And then the selection panel will meet after the nominations have closed in early May and make their decision. And then athletes, once those decisions have been made, will be notified hopefully around May the 6th. I'll come back to Plan B in a minute. And then the para athletics is based on invitation, purely off world rankings, which start theory on New Year's Eve and run the whole way through to New Year's Eve 21. So the whole of 2021 effectively. Each event has 8 slots, 7 are determined by rankings, and 1 is a wild card, so universality. And that they should be allocated in January of 22. So the para athletes will know before the others. All team members, though, will be entered at the same time in June, and you already know the opening ceremony dates. So I'll just come back to Plan B, which obviously takes into account COVID. So we've spoken to sports consistently, almost every week now, through lockdown. So from March onwards, we've been liaising with everyone. And also I've been liaising back to the Commonwealth Games Wales board and their selection panel to ensure that we are flexible, because given what we've faced over the last 9 months, I think if you're not flexible, you'll fail. So we promised the performance directors when we met a couple of weeks ago and met one-on-one that we would update everyone by the end of this year as to what Plan B would look like. And we have nearly completed it. I spent a fair chunk of this week with the lawyers. So we will get that out to you. The important thing to say at this stage, because I think the thing we can say is Plan A will be exactly as you've got it, where you go out and you compete probably around the world to get the performances that you need and the evidence you need. Whatever happens, that will be in place. So there's much performance evidence that can be gathered is really important over the next year. We're also very aware we don't want to put anyone's health at risk. We're also aware also that some sports are really struggling to get back. Some haven't even returned to training. Let's be honest. And we have to cross compare between all sports. So we have to basically work off those that are having the most serious problems at returning to training, yet alone competition. So before the end of the year, we will update you again on what Plan B looks like. But for you, I think the most important thing to say is we're flexible. We're totally aware of this. We're very supportive. We don't want to create any more anxiety. We're really aware of what's going on. But all performances next year within the performance window, which opens on January the 1st and closes sometime in April in 22, will count. They're all relevant. So we'll come back to you as soon as possible. But certainly you will know what it is before the selection window opens on January the 1st. I think I'm trying, actually, was it me that shared my screen? I'm not sure. But anyway, happy to take any questions. So I'm trying to work out how to turn it off. Maybe if I just, yep, has that worked?
Yeah, it has, Chris. Thank you very much.
Remarkable. I don't know what's going on with technology, but anyway, it's excellent. I'm glad it's working, which is very unusual. So it is with me.
So to our audience, any questions for Chris and Kathy, please? Chris, I think you stunned them.
Chris, could you clarify why the quota system dropped from the Gold Coast down to Birmingham for the athletes?
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. So I guess really we've had this is the third games we've had with declining numbers. So Glasgow was an open, every country could enter as many as they wanted, effectively budgets, etc., as a constraint. The Gold Coast was the first time that a cap came in, and that was worked out basically on the size of the village that is available. And that was then modified going into Birmingham, where, again, the size of the village is very important, one, but also there was a small redistribution, which accounts for some of the fall in the cap towards smaller CGAs who had lost out in previous years. The other reason the cap has come down is that table tennis has now gone to invitations. So effectively the table tennis team, which was included in the number, has come out. So our number has gone down as well. So as table tennis has come out and the size of the village taken into account and the small redistribution to smaller CGAs has accounted for the fall. So there's three different factors.
Chris, we've had a question from the audience. They've asked, what are the 11 sports that we're, I guess, competing against for places, Chris? Who are those sports?
Oh, it's a real trivial pursuit question, isn't it? Because I always miss one sport out. This is, okay, here we go. So, well, let's do the easy one, athletics. So we got that one in. Swimming, which includes diving, boxing, cycling, gymnastics, lawn bowls, squash, badminton, wrestling, judo. Did I say boxing?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Gymnastics.
Gymnastics, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I think that gives a flavour for the sports that are sort of being cross-compared against. So
I can tell you who's not in it. That's probably easier. So of the ones that you would not, so all team sports are not in it. and they never have been. They've always been invitation, to be honest. There's no change there. Para sports are not in it. Weightlifting is not in it, and now table tennis is no longer in the individual allocation.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, triathlon, that's the one, the missing one. There you go. You see, there's always one, no matter what you do, there's always one you miss out. But anyway, triathlon's in there too. So, it's a vast majority of sports, effectively.
Okay, thank you. I don't believe we've got any more questions off the floor there, Chris. So unless there's anything from the panel here, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time this morning. It's a really exciting time, and just to thank you for all the work you've done with us up until this point. So thank you to yourself, Kathy, and Kath.
That's brilliant. And I think this time, the good thing to say is, we're really conscious of, what everyone's going through over the last year and how difficult it has been to get back to training, competition. And we're here to work with you because obviously we all want the same things, the best possible performance at Birmingham for Wales. So no, we really appreciate being able to come on to this meeting, and I hope you have a fantastic day. And thanks also, for you guys around the table for all the support and help you've given us over the last, the last 9 months getting through this. And we'll get back to you as soon as possible with what is needed for next year. But I think things are looking a lot better than they were a few months ago. So I hope you have a good meeting, and look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
We have had a question from the floor around the relay teams, and does that count as 1 or 4 spaces? As it currently stands, that would count within our team allocation. So if we were to select a relay team of 6, that would be 6 of the full allocation taken.
Thank you very much, James. Thanks for clarifying that at this point. Okay, so I think we've had a great update there from Team Wales. I hope that all sort of whets the appetite of what Birmingham would look like. It's an exciting time. It's fantastic that athletics is going to be based in what looks like being the main hub as well. So those athletes that obviously get to compete in Birmingham, they'll have that great games experience. Really, as we're coming to the end of this, we thought it was really pertinent to put a what if slide in there. I think maybe that needs to be changed to, what are the positives looking forward rather than what if, because that sounds a little bit negative. So I just wanted to give you some reassurance and be really positive about what's going on in the background. There's a lot of scenario planning going on across the wider team around protecting the health and well-being of the team. There's also a lot of planning, as Chris Jenkins alluded to, around biosecurity and the integrity of the team. But that's all work that's been undertaken behind the scenes by myself and my colleagues here and the wider team of Welsh Athletics. So again, you need to rest assured that a lot of work is going on in the background to make this journey for you as simple and as easy as possible. James has already alluded to, in Wales, we're really fortunate that the competition structure is run by Welsh Athletics. So again, you need to communicate with us over the coming months. If you need competition structure or your competitions put on, we need to be aware of that so we can look to support that for you. We've already touched upon the overseas preparation camp, and thank you, Adam, for going into that. And we are, as Adam alluded to, looking at some UK-based options as well to make that experience the best it can be leading into the games. Chris has already alluded to as well the fact that we're trying to make this a bigger experience for everybody. And it's important as well that we have a much bigger team leading into this games in terms of the support, and that's the support of the logistics, transportation, and generally supporting the team as a whole. So that's a mixture of people from the community, the internal, and that's all work that is happening right now and will evolve as we go forward. So I just want to reassure you, there are what ifs, but we are looking at this as a very positive experience for you, and rest assured we are dealing with a lot of things. Okay, I'd like to hand over to Chris, if I may, to add some final sort of summary to this, please.
I think, first of all, thank Ed and thank all the team for the work that's gone on here over the last 18 months. And obviously we've been presented with huge challenges. But at no time we've not been actually thinking about what is the best preparation for athletes and what is a way that we can actually find solutions going forward to actually obviously ensure confidence that actually athletes can prepare for major games going forward. What I'd like to also say is that through all the layers of actually, should we say, accountability, like we talked about the subgroup and the board, there's been a lot of communication, particularly around some of the challenges that we're facing right now. Well, again, if we look at the opportunity, it's your opportunity. It's an athlete's opportunity to represent Wales. It's the only opportunity you have to pull on that red vest and represent Wales at the highest level. And that is something that only a small group of people, each cycle, each generation of athletes actually get that opportunity to do. So we are committed to supporting that opportunity. And the work that went into the reconnaissance around looking at opportunities to prepare, there's been a lot of dialogue around that. And we feel that what we're trying to do from today is give you the best opportunity in the whole process. And that's about communication, that's about being clear on what the plans are, that's working with you closely as individual athletes and coaches. And then that's obviously trying to create the best product we can deliver to allow you as an athlete and coach to be supported going into that major championships. And that's through the preparation camp. We believe the preparation camp is a world-class facility. It's an absolute Olympic training centre and offers easy access in and easy access out as a team to go as a collective into a major games, into the village in Birmingham. So it's been, again, and alongside that, that's going to take some logistical planning. We've got a strategy group that's looking at the detail of that. So from this first initial meeting today, this delivery of the policy, I hope there's a confidence from everybody here to show the scale of work and commitment from ourselves, from Welsh Athletics, that actually gone into this. When we talk about the preparation camp, one element that we didn't touch on was the opportunity for personal coaches. And there's a twin hotel that sits just outside, which we will work closely with all the individual coaches to offer an opportunity for individual coaches to attend and support their athletes prior to going into the major games competition environment. What we also initiated, what Chris Jenkins didn't say there, that we initiated the campus at Walsall. We got ahead of the game there and did a recce ourselves into the Walsall campus, and we've secured bed spaces into that environment that again will support individual coaches and athletes in that environment, and also probably will create an environment where touching base with families and friends in that space as well. So we've been looking at lots of options, and we feel we've covered most bases at the moment, and we will continue to look at trying to find solutions in those spaces. What I'd like to say is that it's a home games, and it presents a huge opportunity, and the messaging from UK Athletics is loud and clear. Tokyo is seen as obviously end of an Olympic cycle with all the challenges that are facing the world right now with the COVID scenario, and obviously we would hope and look to see athletes from Wales represent at the Olympic Games. However, everything as a collective across the home nations is clear. It's about Birmingham. It's about launching the sport of athletics as a showcase at the home nations. That's what all the home nations are working towards. That's a major goal and a major showcase event. So there are some discussions around in the background. How can we increase that team size? How can we show athletics in the medium and with a showcase of those games? What does that look like with as many Welsh supporters on the roads around Birmingham supporting athletes at the marathon, for example, and also trying to get as many families and support into that environment at the Birmingham Games as well. So we see it as exciting, we see it as a huge opportunity, and we'd like to thank you for your attendance today, and we will endeavour just to keep working and keep the communication strong. But it's your opportunity, and we just wish you all the best and success in preparation. Thank you.
Chris, thank you very much. Before I hand over to James, if I might, to just finish it off. Chris, great to hear that we're looking to support coaches both, in the preparation camp and at Birmingham, and when we've got more information, we'll share that as time moves on. We have had a question coming in. I think it's a really relevant question I'd like to touch upon. The question was around the minimum certification of competitions to count for nomination. What I'd say is in the nomination policy, it's fully documented there, but just for clarity, it's any event organised or sanctioned by World Athletics and its area associations or federations. In the UK, it's a UK level 2 permit, providing it adheres to all the regulations for that level 2 permit. And in the case of the marathon, it's an IAAF accredited course. Again, it's in the nomination policy. It's under points 13 and 14 of that policy. But what it says, if anybody's got any questions on that, please come back to us and come back to us early, because we can clarify that for you. You know, and if any doubts along the journey, please clarify with us. So just like maybe to hand over to James to close this off, if I might.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. Again, just to reiterate, a big thank you to you all for joining us today. Also, a big thank you from me to the team. As we all know, it's been a very challenging 12 months. These guys have worked tirelessly around this topic. You've seen the plans. It's very robust. As Adrian quite rightly points out, there are multiple scenarios working in the background as well. Welsh Athletics will be behind all of you 100%. We want the team to be the best prepared that they possibly can be. We want the team to perform at the best they possibly can. We want to sell the sport of athletics to the wider population across the UK and across the population here in Wales. Birmingham 2022 is the last golden opportunity we have as a sport to have a home games, to showcase the sport. Athletics is the #1 sport within the Commonwealth Games. I don't care what anybody else says. We will do all we can to support you all. We'll do all we can to ensure that it's a fantastic experience for you all. We'll do all we can to say that this is what we do as an organisation, where we are as a sport, and I look forward to supporting you all through that journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We will be holding a series of Ask Us questions, so we will look at any questions that are coming in, on this that we've not answered today, and we'll take those forward into the next series of Ask Us questions. If you've got anything to ask us, please get those in before the sessions. So thank you very much to all of you today, and a big thank you to Rob Sage, who's been tirelessly there orchestrating this IT for us this morning. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, team.
Well done. Thanks, guys.